Welcome back to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy. And today we're talking about April Wilkens, Part 2.
Part 2. Don't forget to smash that like button. Check out the description for the links of all of our podcast platforms, CashApp, and Buy Me a Coffee. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends. As always, tell your friends, because you know what? If you guys enjoy it, maybe they'll enjoy it too.
It's a true story.
So, let's get into Part 2.
Yeah. And you see the title. This is Part 2. So if you haven't seen the first one or heard the first one, go do that.
Go back.
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yep. You'll want to go back. Get all the details. Get all them juicy details before you hear Part 2.
Yes. And there's also, I'll say it again, a big trigger warning for domestic violence. This is not confirming or denying. It's just a warning that we'll be talking about it from April's version of events. But it is a big part of this case. So if that's not for you today, safety first. Part 1, same warning.
Yep.
All right, quick recap. April is 3 years into a very physically and sexually abusive relationship with the son of a prominent businessman in Tulsa, Oklahoma. His name is Terry. They are technically not together at this time, but he is still doing all the things. Both are suffering from substance abuse at this time, and she has been involuntarily committed for the second time. She was transferred to a substance abuse treatment facility where she ran away and hitchhiked home. So now we're all caught up, right? And We're starting off strong. Now, while April had been in the facility, Terry had told her friends to call him if they needed to see how she was doing. So it was the next morning after her great escape. It's April 28th of 1998, when April's friend that she had from Schneider Prosthetics, who now lives in Kiefer, she called Terry's house to check on April's progress and was surprised that April is the one who answered the phone. They talk calmly for 5 or 10 minutes, and then April says, "I shot Terry. He's dead." And the friend is like, "Yeah, sure." And April said, "No, I shot him. He's dead." So the friend gets off the phone, and she has a little talk with her husband, probably trying to figure out whether they should take it seriously or not. And they decide that they're going to take it seriously, and she calls 911, the friend.
So what happened?
Well, according to April, when she got home, her house had been destroyed, and there was a lot of stuff missing from her house. There are sticky notes all over the place with threats and just random shit on them. The only one she remembers now said, "April, it's been real." That's the only one she remembers. Now, her mom and sister had to clean it all up after the fact, and they said that her house was in a horrible state. April was known to keep the house immaculate. Now, there was a makeshift bed on the floor that was made out of blankets and towels. The actual bed itself had been destroyed. There were broken things, even doors, and there was a substance all over everything. Now, when asked if it was urine, her sister Mary said it was like no urine she had ever seen. It looked more like semen.
Oh, that's just nasty.
You nasty.
Nasty.
Mm-mm. Now,
I mean, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's gross.
Now, she didn't want to call the cops, obviously, because if you've listened to the first one, you know why. And she didn't want to stay there. So she went to walk around Brookside for hours. She ended up at the Blue Rose Cafe, and she paged Luke. Now, Luke is her friend, who's also her current dealer. She was there almost an hour, where she ate some fries and drank a pop, but Luke never called her back. So she went home and she changed into running pants, a biking vest, and top, and then she strapped on her rollerblades. Now, she rollerbladed, if that's a word, to the neighbors and talked for like an hour and a half, 2 hours to them. She used their phone as well to page Luke, but he never called back. So she called her friend Shannon. Now, this is the one from the Walmart incident, if you remember, to see about getting a guard dog for her house because Shannon's boyfriend was a former cop. And so she thought maybe he had some kind of connection. They had their own dog that was a guard dog. And so she's like, "Do you think I can get in on that? Because I'm going to need something." It's about 10 p.m. when she leaves the neighbor's house, and she rollerblades around for a while. About midnight, she's back at the Blue Rose. She drank a pop and listened to the band play, and she paged Luke again. and he did not call back. So she's off again. A cab offers her a free ride, so she has him take her to the Executive Inn at 11th and Mingo. Luke stays there, and he had given her a key to his room. Now, she said she didn't want to just barge into his room late at night, so she goes to the front desk and she asks them to call his room for her. He answers, but he tells them that he doesn't want to see April. So they're like, no dice, you can't go. Now, spoiler alert, we do find out at trial that Terry had paid him $5,000 to stay away from her. So,
well, obviously he took it.
Obviously he took it and was holding up his end of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, rumors have it that he had been seen riding around town on Terry's Harley. So there was also some speculation that he gave that to Luke or let Luke use it when he wanted to. That was not confirmed. But April doesn't know all that at the time. She just knows that Luke is blowing her off. So she goes to his car in the parking lot and throws her backpack on his hood. She takes the key to his room and she puts it in the visor of his car, and then she takes off again on her rollerblades. Now, Officer Jane Masick would later testify that she had to respond to a call from an anonymous person about a woman beating up a car in the parking lot at the Executive Inn. Yes.
She ain't catching a break for nothing.
No. Now, she responds to this call at 1:28 a.m., but the woman is gone. There is an elbow pad there, though, so I guess she left that. And so she leaves the lot. She's like, I don't know what to do. There's nobody here.
Yeah.
So she leaves the lot, and she is flagged down by a woman on rollerblades. This was April. And she asks the officer for a ride. Officer Jane runs her name to verify that she doesn't have any warrants. You know, you don't want to let somebody in your cop car if they've got warrants and stuff out for them. You just take them to jail, right?
Yeah.
So she finds out she doesn't have any warrants, but she does see a huge list of calls about domestic violence that April has made. So she gives April a ride home at about 2 a.m. Now, does she stay at home? No, she does not. She changed out of the rollerblades and put on tennis shoes and decided to walk to Terry's house.
I mean, why would she do that?
Why would you do that? She says that she couldn't live like that any longer and she needed to make peace with him.
At 2 a.m. You ever heard the phrase that nothing good happens after 2?
After midnight. Yeah, I've heard it after midnight.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's what she said. She said she needed to make peace. She wasn't going to be able to stay in that house if she was worried he was coming at her all the time. So he answers the door with a .22 Beretta in his hand. But she went into his house anyways. Mm-hmm. She said he keeps trying to get her to go upstairs, but she won't. But she does go to the basement with him. I'm not
going upstairs, but yeah, I'll go to the basement.
But basement? Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Totally.
Let's do this.
And we're not talking shit.
Let's roll, butthole.
Well, we are kind of talking shit, but none of this makes sense. We're just asking the questions everybody wants to know.
What the fuck?
Now, this basement is his music room, right? So don't picture it as anything else. It is a music room. There's vintage guitars hanging on the walls, and there's stands with vintage guitars on them on the floor. There's a couch. There's a TV. It's like a finished basement. And that's the point. It's not studded walls and a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. You know what I mean? It's a nice room. She said she was trying to keep the mood light, but he was very short-tempered. He's trying to get her to do drugs with him. Now, at first she says no, but she does end up giving in. Remember, she's been not incarcerated. She's been committed for the last couple of weeks. So she's like at the end of the withdrawal process or wherever she's at, but she's been on lithium this whole time too. So it's like she says her facilities were not functioning properly at the time. So she ends up giving in, but she mixed her own in the syringe and she made it as weak as possible, but they did shoot up together. Now at around 5 a.m., she tells him that she has to go to the bathroom, but she goes to the second floor bathroom because it has a vent.
So she went past the front door.
Yes. I was hoping you'd get that.
I mean, the first floor.
She goes past the first floor. Yeah.
On up to the second floor where she didn't want to go to begin with.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is what she says. This is her version of events. She does admit to the cops later that she could have left. Like when he was in the basement and she went upstairs, she could have walked out the front door, but she didn't. Yeah. Now, when she opens the door to the bathroom, so she uses the facilities, and then she opens the door and Terry is standing in the doorway pointing a gun at her. He says he's tired of waiting for her to come around. He's going to sexually assault her in a very, very different choice of words. And then he was going to kill her. Now, he tried bargaining at some point too, saying that he would go to rehab if she would just stay with him. And she's telling him no the whole time. No, we're not getting back together. No, we're not going to have intercourse. No, no, no. But he drags her into the bedroom. And she says he first puts the gun on the nightstand next to the bed, but then he grabbed it and put it on the bed next to her head while he sexually assaulted her. Now, when he was trying to get her clothes off, he had thrown her shoes across the room. So after the assault, she readjusts her clothes and tries to get to her shoes, but he won't let her. And so I guess he's thinking that if she has her shoes, she's going to run off.
Shoes be damned.
Fuck those shoes.
Exactly.
You're going to see me barefoot running through the neighborhood screaming bloody murder. I'm just saying, wake everybody up. Somebody will call.
Yeah, but it sounds like nobody's going to believe her anyway.
That is true. But at least she could run for safety somewhere. Go hide.
Yeah, cops are being paid.
Apparently.
They're telling her that, she's annoying and everything else. And
one of them told her one time that they were expecting to show up and find her dead during one of those calls. Yeah. Ugh. Then why are you not doing anything? Anyways. She tries to get him to lay down with her, right? So now she's like trying to appease him. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, just lay down with me. Because she's thinking if he might pass out, she could probably now leave. But he's up and down. Like he'll lay down and then he'll get right back up. Lay down and get right back up. Now he had just mainlined meth. So that was kind of a long shot on her part anyway. But he has a better idea. He has the idea that they go to the basement and she can do heroin with him. Now downstairs, he mixes meth and heroin into a syringe and gives it to her to do while he tries to find a vein on himself. Now she says she squirted the syringe onto the ground when he wasn't paying attention because she said she hadn't started doing heroin yet and she wasn't going to start that day. So she makes him think that she did it. So he told her to clean the syringes so that he can try a new one because he can't get that vein right. But she asked if she can use the phone first, and he said, yes. So, okay. So she goes upstairs, right?
So another time she could have left.
Wait till you hear what she actually did. Because she does not leave. She goes and gets that gun from the bedroom, right? She gets his police scanner, which is how he was always gone by the time the cops got to her house. He would listen to his police scanner and know when the call came in and he would leave. So he was never caught there. She grabbed his car keys, keys to a red Blazer that he had in the driveway, his platinum card, his Visa platinum card, and a golden American Express card, along with $80 in cash. She put the gun in a pocket that was at the back of her vest. So it was actually resting kind of at the small of her back. She put the rest of the stuff in her backpack, put it outside the basement door on the floor. And when she was asked at trial why she got that gun, like, why'd you get the gun? She said, my first instinct was so that he couldn't use it on me. And secondly, to be able to protect myself,
You know?
So
I couldn't have ran at any point in time.
Right. So then she quietly creaked open the back door. Now she says that it was so that when he finally did lay down, she could run out the back door and he wouldn't hear her. Well, if you're gathering up guns and stuff, he's not hearing you either. So anyways, then she goes back down to the basement. Terry is not down there. So she starts cleaning the syringes like he told her to. There are 2 sets of stairs to this basement. And he came barreling down the other stairs. So I guess when she came in, he was out the other set of stairs. That's why they didn't pass each other. So he barrels down these other stairs. He grabs her. He handcuffs her with her hands in front of her, and he's yelling at her, "Bitch, where's the gun?" So I guess he had gone upstairs to get it and realized it wasn't there. He pats her down, but he doesn't find it in the small of her back. Now, he was threatening to sodomize her and then kill her. He paced away from her, and she would later say, "I made up my mind. If he turned around with an angry look on his face, I was going to shoot him. I decided to help myself. I wanted to be comfortable."
I mean, isn't she handcuffed in the front?
She is handcuffed in the front. So what she does is when he paces away, she twists her arms back and said she's able to grab the handle of the gun with her fingers. So when Terry turns around, if he didn't already look angry, he probably did when he saw that she had a gun on him. She said he lunged at her and she shot. He was about 3 feet away from her. She says she hit him in the neck first because she saw blood on his neck. Like whenever she shot, it exploded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her dad had always taught her that if you're shooting to protect yourself, you always empty the clip. So she would end up shooting him 8 times. She lays a blanket over him, holds his hand, and eventually takes that phone call that her friend called. And she was like, "I shot him. He's in the basement." That's when that happened. Now, when the cops get there, it's around 9 a.m. They do a perimeter sweep. You know, you got to check the surroundings, make sure there's no threat. And they can see April moving around in the house. She comes to the door and tells them, "I shot him. He's in the basement." Now, 2 cops go to the basement while Officer Fathom stays with April. And April tells her, according to April herself, that she had been sexually assaulted and he made her douche after. So they would find that in the upstairs bathroom. She answers all the questions she was asked, and Fathom described her as excitable yet calm. April says she's not sorry that it happened. It was the right thing to do, and she wasn't upset that it happened. Right?
I mean, she's telling everybody straight out.
That she is. She's like, "I did it, and I'd do it again."
I mean, think about how many damn times she's been screwed over.
How many times?
By everybody.
How many times has she done what you're always told to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Call the cops. Ask for help. Do this. And I mean, and it didn't do nothing but bite her in the ass the whole time.
Every time. Yep.
Anyway.
Yep. Now, the cops who went downstairs would say that they saw him laying on the floor, covered in a blue blanket. There were shell casings around him. He was cold to the touch. There was a table near the door with a gun on it, a walkie-talkie, some drug paraphernalia, and a pair of handcuffs covered in a dried white liquid.
And what was that?
That was a hand sanitizer. So April says that's how she got the cuffs off. So since they were on her, the only thing she could find that could lubricate enough for her to be able to pull her hand out was hand sanitizer. So she put it all over her and then just like ripped them off because they said her hands were all red. Her wrists and her hands were like all of her stuff was red. They found drug paraphernalia all over the basement. There were guns and there were 5 grenades. So they had to call in the bomb squad to dispose of those grenades.
Yeah.
There's a little debate here at this part. Okay. So April was taken to the station. Fathom remembers April saying at the scene that they had intercourse, right? April said she told them she had been sexually assaulted. But now the cop is on the stand saying, no, she never said that. She said they had intercourse. But they didn't use, or April didn't use the R word until after they were already at the police station. So when she told them at the station that it was a sexual assault, they then took her to the hospital for another SANE exam. And then they brought her back to the station to be booked in. Now, the SANE nurse that did that second exam did testify that April's pants had a rip inside the right knee and one up closer to the inner thigh. She had bruising on her hip, arm, head, neck, and chin. She had 2 vaginal tears. And the detective on the case did not have that kit tested.
Of course they did.
which I know they know who did it, or they know who she's saying did it, but they kind of don't you want to have that proof?
Yeah.
Anyways, he said he thought that it was the nurse's job to do it, but it's not. It's actually the detective on the case's job to have that kit processed. Either way, didn't get done. So April would clap back that she had told the cops several times that she had been sexually assaulted and she should have been taken to the hospital first. But instead, they took her to the station for several hours before they did that.
I mean, they didn't process the kid either way.
Right. Either way, it didn't
That's
matter.
what I'm saying, man. She's been done dirty. This whole thing.
Sounds like it. Yeah. Now her trial would start.
It came down to money.
Mm.
Who had the most money? So anyway.
Her trial started a year later, so it was the spring of 1999. It was one of the first big murder cases that was tried by newly elected DA Tim Harris. It was also one of the first trials in Oklahoma to use battered woman syndrome as a defense, because that's what it was called then. I know now it's changed to battered spouse or intimate partner violence. But back then it was battered woman syndrome. And it wasn't near as common back then as it is today. So this was one of the first trials where you hear about it, and it was a big deal. She originally had a public defender, but her parents did end up getting her a private lawyer because they just did not want to risk it with a public defender. So they worked out and got her own lawyer.
So her parents are standing by her?
They are. They were with her through the whole trial.
That's good.
Yeah. She was very apprehensive about having to talk about her childhood abuse in court because they were going to be in there. And, people change. It doesn't make what happened better. But, she had forgiven them. And here they are helping her. They're by her. They love her. And she's going to have to tell about all this stuff that happened when she was a kid. Yeah. But it did have to come out. So either way.
Well, before we go any further, let's go ahead and do us a quick commercial break.
Okay.
All righty.
Sounds good.
All right. So, guys, just hang in there for just 1 minute, and we'll be right back. Is your washer and dryer pushing your buttons instead of the other way around? Make a clean getaway before you spin out of control.
For sheets and giggles, go ahead and call My Laundry Solutions today at 800-535-4411 if you live in an apartment. We know you're pressed for time, so you can also tumble on over to MyLaundrySolutions.com, which is available 24/7. They are a wonderful company to do business with.
No credit check, free installations, all for about $1 a day.
That's sensational.
Give them a call. You won't be disappointed. You will not be disappointed. That's sensational.
My acting skills are there. That's sensational.
Ding.
Golly. You ever hear yourself back and you're like, cringe? You cringe yourself. I apologize, but I still love it.
But go check out My Laundry Solutions. They're great people. They're real easy to work with, and they can get a great deal for you.
Yeah. Call them. See what's up.
All right. Let's finish out this story.
Okay. So the story you've heard so far is April's story, right? This is all from her perspective. This is all what she says happens. And there's so much more, but there's stuff that didn't come out in court.
It's kind of funny because you said but and you stop.
I know, because
and everything froze.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Everything stopped.
No, you froze. That's why I was like, they're going to think that. Anyway, go ahead.
My brain was working. I do also want to mention that she had, remember, she was telling them that she'd like weak mixture in that first syringe, and then she had put the second syringe in the carpet. Remember? Because she didn't want to do drugs. When they tested her, when they did her SANE exam, she had no drugs in her system. No street drugs in her system. So they're like, maybe she was telling the truth, right?
Yeah.
So it seems she didn't have enough, because remember the first one was just weak. So she just didn't have enough in her system. So let's talk about what the state says is actually going on here. They say that she went to find Luke, paging him over and over and over before going to his hotel because she was looking for a fix. that she had been committed for a couple of weeks and was looking to score some drugs. But he refused to see her, right? Because he's got that deal with Terry. So she went banging on Terry's door in the middle of the night. That's the real reason that she went over there, because she was trying to get drugs. And that's why he answered the door with a gun in his hand, because he's got some person banging on his door at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then drugs is why she talked him into going into the basement instead of going upstairs when she first got there. But remember, there's no drugs in her system. So it's like, how can you argue that she was trying to get a fix? Well, they're not arguing that she went to Terry's to technically get a fix, but more like she went to his house to get him high. Does that make sense? Not for her. She wanted to make sure that he was incapacitated while she stayed alert.
Okay.
Make sense? Laying it out that she did not go there to make peace. She meant to hurt him. She planned to do stuff to him. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, was it to kill him?
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. So they bring up that she had told Officer Fatum about a combat training course that she had previously taken. She told her that after she first shot Terry, that Terry said that he was paralyzed and needed an ambulance. And then she had let him keep breaking into her house. So she's made these statements, according to the officer that arrested her that night, all these things that look really bad against her, which it seemed like an interesting choice of words too, that she let him keep breaking into her house. So I guess they're trying to say that she would just let it happen and she wouldn't do much to stop it so that she could call the cops and try to get him arrested. Whatever.
But that never worked.
It never worked. Yeah. The cops didn't give a shit that he was at her house all the time. Plus, they never caught him there. Anyways. So she had also practiced shooting guns at some point in her life with national pistol champion Mike Sexton, who also said that she was a pretty good shot.
Okay.
So they're saying she's really good with guns. She's setting him up. She meant to rob him, like obviously. Anyways. Now, when she demonstrated to the police how she got the gun from behind her back, remember, because they're like, tell me how you did this. When she pulled the gun around and held it, she had her left hand on the bottom and right hand around it. So looking like a professional shoots a gun. So like she obviously had,
I mean, you can learn that in
any procedural drama on TV.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, you can see it on TV. You can learn it on any concealed carry course. I mean, any kind of self-defense class. I mean, if they do it like that, or if you go to a gun range, they're going to show you the proper way of holding a gun.
Very true.
I mean, come on.
Very true.
I mean, so she's had experience shooting guns.
Yep.
Okay.
A lot of people have.
Yeah. When you're from Oklahoma,
you grow up shooting guns.
There's one thing you do, especially 90s and everything. I mean, back then you didn't have all this Grubhub and freaking DoorDash and all this crap and everything else. You went out and you hunted your damn food.
A lot of people did.
I mean,
we did.
Yeah. We was talking about this the other day and everything. We used to have family dinners, and before we had our family dinners, we would go out and we would hunt our food, or we'd fish or whatever, and then we would take it back to the house, and then we would prepare it and cook it, and that would be our family dinner for the day.
True.
I mean, that's just how it was.
100%.
So, yeah, everybody in the 90s had some kind of experience shooting something.
Shooting a bow and arrow, shooting a gun, using a wrist rocket. Like, you was using all kinds of things.
Everything.
Yeah. The little kids, you get the wrist rocket and go hunt rabbits. Anyways, I've said that a lot.
Yeah.
There was obviously a lot of testimony, of course, because it's a trial, but we're going to skip to the medical examiner. Now, they said that Terry had meth and heroin in his system, which was expected because April had said it looked like he was doing black tar heroin in the basement. He had track marks between his toes, elbow, arms, and apparently his legs were covered in marks. He couldn't tell the order that the bullets went into Terry, but he did say that he had stippling on his face. So at least one of those shots was within 2 feet or less, not 3 feet away like she said. Also, the neck wound would have paralyzed him instantly, which April said she hit him in the neck first. And she also said that he told her he was paralyzed. So that tracks. The problem comes in when he says that one, he could have been shot, or no, he had been shot through the left finger, one of his fingers on his left hand. And two, the neck wound trajectory was at a downward angle.
Okay, so how tall are they?
So she is 5'5" and he is 6 feet tall. So she's much shorter than he is.
And it was at a downward angle?
Yep. So the prosecutor says that he was actually probably sitting down, either playing guitar, cleaning a guitar, or trying to find that vein like they were talking about when she shot him in the neck. Like that he wasn't coming at her. But then, you know, they're like, well, he was probably crouched down, right? And so that's why it went at a weird angle. Because that's another alternative would be that, you know, it wasn't the neck shot that was first, right?
Well, I mean, you know, he said that he was coming at her. So
she did. She said he lunged at her.
So that would be like a charge. That would be shoulders down.
Could be. Yeah.
Going at her.
Could be.
I mean, you're not going to be sitting there straight up and down like, ah.
Yeah, that's not how you attack somebody.
You know?
Right. Right? So they're saying that when she shot him in the neck and it severed his spinal cord, he tells her that he needs an ambulance, and then she still shoots him 7 more times. So that's another thing. But she said her dad told her, empty the clip.
Yeah, exactly.
But like I said, the other alternative would have to be that she didn't shoot him in the neck first, because how would he have got that shot through his left finger? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
If you're paralyzed after the first shot, you can't raise your hand in a defensive gesture.
Exactly. I mean, that's...
But could it have shot through the hand and went into his neck? Like if you're coming at somebody, it's hands first.
Well, so that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that whenever he was coming at her, hands out.
Right.
She shot.
That's what I'm thinking. But they didn't talk about that. They were just like, oh, well.
Well, no, they're trying to rack her with whatever the hell they can get her on.
Right. Right. Because it wasn't like his hand was down by his side or anything, because he was shot 1 time in the neck, and then the one where it went through his finger, and the other 6 were in the head. Like they're all in the same spot, and they're all above the neck, above the shoulders.
Yeah.
So his hand wasn't obviously down by his side. So how, if she shot him while he was sitting down, how did it go through his finger?
I think he was his hand out, running, charging, and she shot, and it went through his hand.
That's what I thought.
And then through the neck. And the whole thing is, like, I'm not like saying she's not guilty or anything like that.
No.
I'm just giving my opinion. I think she's been just run through the ringer. My personal opinion. Now, there's probably going to be people that disagree. That's fine. But I don't think that she was treated the best in this situation at all.
I agree with that.
The whole time she's been with this man, she has been done wrong.
I agree with that too.
And was she doing drugs? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of damn people out there doing drugs and stuff like that. I ain't saying it's a good thing. I ain't saying it's right or anything like that.
Right.
It's not right at all. But, you know, it's just one of them deals like, you know, there's got to be a point to where if you're in a job to help people and all you do is just you blame it on the wrong person and everything, and just because somebody paid you $500 every time when the call was coming in or whatever, that's not helping people. That's helping the wrong people.
Well, my problem with that is, besides that, is that you're being paid $500 to look the other way, and you do that. You take that $500 and then you still tell her, we expect one day to show up and find you dead. So that means that you value her life at $500? Like that you're just going to take that money and walk away and your conscience is clear? Like, I don't understand that part either. Just, it's not okay.
Yeah.
Ugh. They also make sure that the jury knows that she had a track mark on her left arm the size of a peanut M&M and a bigger one on her right arm. Now, she did admit to even using meth while she was in the county jail waiting for trial. Like, so, I mean, they say prison's the best place to get drugs. I don't know about county jails, but she could have left the house multiple times is another point they make. So the jury has to decide if this is battered woman syndrome, because that's different than a typical self-defense case. With BWS, or battered spouse, or persistent intimate part, I'm just making up words now. Intimate partner violence cases, the victim actually believes that killing the abuser is the only way to avoid being killed themselves. Like, that's why it's a different thing. So the question is this what was going on here? Did she believe that to have peace and to end this once and for all, this is what she had to do? Or was it a straight out murder? The jury has to decide. Right?
You're right.
So the jury decided that this was a straight out murder.
Okay.
Remember that there was a recorded phone call where April talked about if he did come in, and if she wasn't too nice that she couldn't shoot him, and she did, that it would be justifiable homicide. Well, that wasn't allowed to be played in court. It actually tried. I think there was some going on with it, some problem. But Don Carlton talked about it in his pre-sentencing letter to show that this was actually premeditation. That her statement that day saying, I could shoot him and get away with it, basically, was her saying, I'm going to shoot him and get away with it. So take that how you want. They did sentence her to life in prison. And a juror from the trial said that this was absolutely not a good test case for battered woman syndrome.
I mean, it was probably most likely about the neck wound.
Probably.
But, I mean, the whole thing is, like, she had a protective order.
Yes.
She's been forced in the house, down whatever. I mean, she's been forced so many damn times under this protective order. But they don't even take that in consideration.
The cops saw him in the driveway
of her house, at her place.
And was just like, we're going to take you in.
Exactly. And they pull up on her.
Yep.
Because she's saying a prayer.
Yeah. She was talking to God.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, when was that? When is judging somebody
for their religion
a crime?
That day.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, when is that a crime? To pray out in public.
Well, see, that's why I wonder if he was telling the truth. Because, abusers are going to say all kinds of things. Yeah. But when he told her, I'm the one that's having you committed, I mean, it starts to kind of look that way when they're not even looking at him who's actually breaking the law.
Yeah.
And they're looking at her who's talking to God in a church parking lot. It wasn't like she was at Applebee's or on a street corner, just ranting and raving to traffic as it went by. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, I don't know. That stuff don't add up. Now, she did file for post-conviction relief in 2003 and 2009, saying that her attorney left out key evidence and that Tim Harris, the newly elected DA, shouldn't have been allowed to try the case because he had ties to Don Carlton.
Yep.
Now, the same thing with one of the appeal judges. He also had ties to Don Carlton, and he did not recuse himself and denied her appeals. So it's, she's always denied.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Her last filing was in 2022, saying that Officer Fathom had perjured herself in a previous case. So I guess her parents had actually gotten divorced. And when Officer Fathom got on the stand to testify in their divorce case, she lied. And then she admitted that she lied. So now April's like, well, she lied there. What's to say she didn't lie when, they're doing a he said, she said.
Yeah.
So it's like that person is a known liar now. So why are you going to believe her over me? Makes sense.
Yep.
So, very importantly, one of those things that she put into her appeals was that they did not include a manslaughter jury instruction, right?
Okay.
So sometimes the jury doesn't quite understand the processes of the judicial system, and they think that they can, they're charged with this, so they can only get that. But that's not how it works. If they find that there's a different charge that would fit that crime in some cases, they can be instructed, hey, if you don't think that's premeditated, if you think it's something else, you can also consider this. Well, they didn't do that in her case. So the jury thought it's only this. So she's either guilty or not guilty on this one thing. And so that's a big problem. But even that, she was denied. So she appealed in 2023, but in 2022, her case was picked up by the Oklahoma Appleseed Center for Law and Justice. Sadly, she had been offered a plea deal before the trial for 20 years, but she turned it down. And now she's been in jail and in prison since 1998. So if you math that, it's 27 years that she's been in jail now. Last year, in May of 2024, came the Oklahoma Survivors Act. So that made it where they could re-sentence criminalized survivors like April. Governor Stitt did try to veto that, but the Senate overrode the veto. So it actually took effect in August of 2024. Now, the first person to apply for that was who? April.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, please look at my sentence. I think I'm more than done. She was not the first to benefit from it, though, because other women have had their sentences reduced to time served and been released, and April is still fighting in the court. She's actually back in court this month.
And that's just crazy.
I know.
So, I mean, it's just, like I said, it came down to who had more money.
Well, I mean, the jury, you think the jury was swayed?
I think of course they were. I mean, they wasn't swayed in that way, like money-wise or anything like that.
Right.
But
that we know of.
Well, no, but you had the judge.
Mm-hmm.
You had the prosecutor or the DA.
Yeah.
And, you had all these things working against her that she appealed to have them, because they should have recused themselves.
Yes.
And everything, because it's bias.
Yes.
That right there should have got the case tossed out.
Yeah.
Automatically.
Yep.
And, and they didn't do it. So, I mean, she should have been able to appeal that and got a retrial or something else. I mean, she should have been able to get something because that right there was, I mean, everybody's being paid by the Carlton family, basically.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
And they've used this case in so many other, like, when they're trying to get laws passed and bills passed in other states and things like that, they actually use this case.
And then they allowed Dawn Carlton to actually mention the phone call when it wasn't allowed in the court.
Yes, because after they're convicted, they can do that.
They can do that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Yep.
They
won't allow them to break down, in court or anything like that and show any kind of emotion. By God,
not before the verdict.
But by God, they can go ahead and bring up the freaking other stuff.
They can, because he was trying to show premeditation so that they could consider that in the sentencing. Yeah. Now that she's been found guilty, they're like, let's prove how long aggravated circumstances. At
some point, you got to be like, man, my son was kind of a jerk. You know what I mean?
Maybe there's a little fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, really he's gone. Man, it sucks. I know it's sad and everything, but man, he could have been a little nicer.
Well, Don Carlton actually protested every one of her appeals.
I'm sure he did.
And he was a very big advocate to keep her in jail all the way up until when he passed away, I think in 2022 when he passed away. But yeah, he was very active in keeping her in jail. I'm sure he threw a lot of money at that too. Yeah. But that's speculation.
Yeah.
It's my opinion.
It's all speculation.
Now, April is doing what she can to make the most of her life in prison. She is a vegan, which we always knew she ate healthy anyways. She's now a grandmother. So she missed her own kid growing up, and now she's missing her grandchild grow up. She started Head of the Dog rehabilitation program in 2015, which is for doggies. She also runs 5Ks in the prison, which I didn't know they did that, but apparently they do. They let you organize 5K events with other inmates, and you can actually run them. Not out, they're inside the walls, but I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, Don Carlton, heavily active. He's a multi-millionaire. He did sue April back in the day for actual and punitive damages because of the death, but he did end up dropping that lawsuit. And we won't go into all the family stuff for that family, but he was not without allegations against him either. There's other family members that have their own cases going on or that were talked about that Terry would mention to April, like, this person was unalived and you're next. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things we didn't bring in, but it's all in that podcast. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But she's still fighting to get out. That's the point of where we're at. That's where we're at today. She's fighting to get out. She was 28 years old at the time of the shooting. She is now 55 years old. And that's where we're at. We're just waiting to see if they're actually going to reconsider and say, okay, 27 years is enough. Because she's not asking for them to like expunge it from a record. She's like, just give me time served and let me out. Because she's seeing other inmates that are benefiting from the Survivors Act and she's still sitting there. But she feels very deserving of it. And we'll see if she gets it or not. We'll see if they agree. Right?
Yep. Absolutely.
I thought this was a wild case.
It is kind of wild. Whatever happened to all the guitars?
I'm sure the family either still has them or they were sold at auction or something.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if anybody else would want that many vintage guitars. Now, if you or someone you know needs help, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 800-799-7233, or you can text BEGIN, BEGIN, to 88788.
And guys, don't mess around with that kind of stuff.
Do not.
Ladies, if you're in...
And men.
And men. There's some men, yeah. If you guys are in any kind of violent relationship and you need help, call that number, text it.
Yep.
Get help.
They can help you make a plan.
Absolutely.
If you're scared, because I understand that the worst time for you, for your physical safety, is when you try to leave. That's why they help you make a plan so that you have something in place and it's easier for you to be able to get out. You know what I mean? Like, they can help you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can submit case suggestions by emailing us at dna.truecrime@gmail.com. And if you like our content, please like, share, and subscribe.
Yep. And don't forget to go to all of our other podcast platforms and check them out and make sure you guys like them on there too.
Like us.
Yeah. Because if you guys like us, then your friends are going to like us too, because we're a likable people. So, as always, don't forget to tell your friends, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.